Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners, September 14, 2015 meeting. First thing on the agenda is rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Marcy.
Mr. Sullivan, thank you. I just first want to take a minute to acknowledge last night was the first night of Rosh Hashanah in the year 5776 for all our Jewish residents out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I also would like to extend the board's welcome back to Alex Myers.
Good to be back.
Alex, I think, has set the record now, the first one we've ever had for 3 straight years. We had some 2 years. I don't think we've had a 3.
Didn't we have Massacre for 3 years?
3 or 2.
Was it like 2?
I'm not sure. But if it is, I apologize.
But him, it seems like it's been forever.
Well, if he doesn't graduate, we get him for 4.
Oh, God.
Ouch.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
First on the agenda, acceptance of the minutes,
Mr.
9/3/2015.
Chairman, I move that we accept the Board of Selectmen minutes of September 3rd, 2015 as written.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Marcy, second by Mr. Ruder. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next up, we have an appointment for Audrey Resner, who wrote us a letter and is unfortunately unable to attend tonight. Dear Honorable Board of Selectmen, I'd like to be considered for a position on the Cultural Council. Sincerely, Audrey Resner. It's the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Audrey Resner for her application, and I'd like to move that we appoint her to the Cultural Council with her term to expire June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marcy, seconded by Mr. Ruder. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next up is item 4. It's public comments, citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to be heard? Hearing no one. Number 5, noise bylaw proposal. Mr. Belkunis.
Board members, in your packet this evening is a draft of the noise bylaw that the board had contemplated. It is an action that would require putting on the town meeting warrant for November 2nd, and the board had requested that there be a public hearing to solicit input to determine whether the board in fact will put the bylaw on the warrant. For those who may be here and interested in what the content of it is, the Section 1 addresses noise, unlawful noises that are prohibited, and those would be sounds from electronic sound, musical instruments and devices which are disturbing to the peace, devices that attract attention. The Section 2 governs noise coming from commercial activities, and then finally Section 3 addresses the various exemptions involved with it. The bylaw, again, is fairly short in its nature, but it does provide for penalties for any party or business that were to be in violation.
So for Mr. Town Administrator, the idling of any diesel engine equipment, what if we have school buses that need to warm up before 7 o'clock?
Mr. Chairman, should we open the public hearing?
Oh, I didn't know it was a public hearing.
We have to clear the public hearing open?
Mike? Do I have to
I
read
was
the
just suggesting
notice?
that we
Yeah, I'm
open
sorry.
it.
You're right, I'm sorry. Kind of jumped the gun here. Do I have to read the notice or just open the public hearing? Let the public hearing be considered open at 6:38.
Mr. Chairman, in response to your question, we could include a section in the exemption category that would relate to school buses, related type of equipment. There's also been some concerns about snow blowers and snow blowing equipment. People that need to get to work at a certain time, they don't have the luxury of waiting until whatever time it is to snow blow their driveways. So those are the 2 items that we could potentially add to the exemption category.
Mr. Fox?
I agree with the administrator's comments, especially the one about snow blowing, because My wife has to work extremely early hours, and sometimes I have to get up and get her out and make sure she gets on the road in order to get to work. So I would have a concern there. The other concern I have is I would not want this policy to pit one neighbor against another neighbor if somebody didn't stop something at the exact right time. Say, for example, you're having a pool party and it's not over at 11 o'clock or whatever the designated hour is, and then you get one neighbor mad at another neighbor. So those are my two concerns.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, I had originally asked if we could hold a public hearing on this, because the recent incidents, I say recent, the last 18 months to 2 years, 18 months, where we've had some questions and issues have been between neighbors, and these squabbles can become very acrimonious, very heated. And I felt that we had a good draft in front of us, a very workable draft, and I think with those two changes it'll be even better. But I wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to get their 2 cents worth in, because this will become a binding, if it's passed at the town meeting, this becomes a binding bylaw, not a policy of the board, but a bylaw. And if people object to it after a posted public hearing and a vote at a town meeting, then shame on them. So this is an ample opportunity for people to get their oar in the water now. I like this policy. I like the way it's written. I think that if we approve it at some point with the recommended changes and vote on it as a bylaw, I think we're doing a good thing at this time.
I don't see this policy addressing ice augers, for example. I know there's a lot of people that get upset because the ice fishermen aren't going to want to wait till 7 o'clock. And I don't even ice fish, just for the record, but nobody owns the ponds. I mean, I guess the town does in theory, but if someone's out on the ice with an ice auger at 5:30 in the morning, how's that going to be addressed? I mean, that to me is the same
Well,
as...
you always have a right, even without a bylaw, a person has a right for what's called intermittent or infrequent noise to contact the police department and file a disturbing the peace complaint, in which case the police department does not need a bylaw to go down there and bar someone from conducting whatever activity that may involve. This just gives more teeth in terms of levying fines and providing something that's official, that's within the town bylaw record. But I would suggest that the situation you described could be construed as disturbing the peace.
One of the good things about this, Steve, and the rest of the board, is that this describes chronic business or construction noise, and that's to be monitored by the Board of Health. Once this is a bylaw, because I know one of the questions we had was, who's going to enforce this? Right? And chronic business and construction noises are to be regulated and monitored by the Board of Health. However, when this is a bylaw, immediate response can be made by the police department as a bylaw for something that's not chronic, that's a one-time or very seldom thing. So I think we're on the right path here.
Mr. Fox?
I think we're on the right path. I do know that I have not heard of any major complaints from the police chief about people calling in with constant problems. I think he's the enforcer of disturbing the peace, and I think most of the calls should go to him.
I mean, they're going to be the ones that get 99% of the calls anyway. But I've said it before, and I'll just say it again. I'm of the mind, let things go the way they go. And the incidents are so few and far in between. I just think we're opening up small cans of worms that are going to, as people have stated, pit neighbor against neighbor, pit neighbor against an association. But if it's the will of the board to put it forward on the town meeting warrant, then that's what'll go. Mr. Town Administrator.
I have one further suggestion. So I had given the board some recommendations, some ideas back August 17th. And one of the things I would ask you to do, look at the fines, because Section 4 provides penalties of $300 per violation. I suggest you ramp up your penalties so that you recognize that someone's made a mistake inadvertently, doesn't realize it. You may want to look at a less serious penalty monetarily than the fine that's specified in second offense, and then third, and each subsequent offense after that would be dealt with differently. Typically, when there's a complaint, the person understands and doesn't do it again. And so that's something that you might want to take a look at going into town meeting, and at least decide whether you want to modify the penalty language.
Well, your language says not to exceed.
That's what it does, but then that provides for discretion.
Right.
And so each person will look at it and deal with it on a different basis. And that sometimes is a problem too.
Anything else? Comments from the public? Close the public hearing at 6.
Yeah, just I want to see if anybody else had anything to say. We have a lot of rules on the books as it is. I do want to see what everybody, at the town meeting will say about this, but I mean, I think since I've been on the board, I've only heard of like 2 incidents. One was with the college and that band, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I think it was another thing over at one of the bars over on the Webster side. But other than that, I mean,
We had a problem. We had 2 problems out on Ramshorn Road area with dirt bikes.
Oh, you get the occasional,
Right.
ATV and dirt bikes. Yeah, you do get that.
I know we've had ice hogger complaints.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, people have called.
I just don't want to make things too restrictive. I mean, people want to live there, like you said, the ice fisherman, the hunter. They want to. I mean, that's part of the things that they do. And I don't want. You don't need a permit to do things you like to do. As long as you're not bothering somebody in the extreme.
My question too on Section 2, and I'll use the rail trail as an example, only because that's an ongoing project. Are we saying that they can't drive the trucks into that area, for example, until 7 o'clock? Because if they start coming in at 6:30,
We got complaints about.
they may not start work till 7, but if they show up, can they drive the trucks in at 7:45? 6:30, you know what I mean? Just little things like that. I'm not trying to poke holes in this. I'm just
That's a good point.
These are the ones that are going to come up, though.
That is a real example.
John, Steve, let me point something out to you. We have problems with a number of people who are greatly impacted by someone who is running a business at a yard sale. All right?
I'll bring something about that later.
Yeah. Okay, now, I mean, there were jokes made about it and so on. But we took care of those people's rights to privacy, free access to their property, and we haven't heard a problem since.
Well,
All right? Now, we do have some issues of problems here. We've had it, as you said, the instances we've already said. This doesn't have to be constrictive, but it should be restrictive so that we can avoid those kind of problems down the road, because we have had complaints.
We have.
You know what we went through with the band.
Yep, I remember.
You know? So I agree with you. Don't want to talk
Yeah, I'm not
Syrian.
saying I'm totally against it, Paul. I just wanted people to understand that, like what do I have to do now? I just don't want the town to be known as, we're no fun. We're no
Quiet place?
Well, we are a quiet, fun, nice place. Remember the old saying, it's a nice place to live?
we used to have the bagpiper.
We know the other thing, too, is if we pass this and put it on to the agenda, we'll get all the opinions and thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested to hear that.
But once again, we being a subjective term, we're going to fight it out at town meeting when the question should be here tonight.
They should be.
And that's what
They're not.
happens.
Agreed.
We
So
get
we
bogged
give them
down.
another avenue or arena
Agreed.
to speak up.
Agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I just bring to everybody's attention that the restrictions we're talking about begin during the week when people generally work at 9 p.m. There's no restriction before 9 p.m. and noise can start at 7 a.m. And on the weekends, we're talking about 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., there's no bylaw in place until you pass that hour. I also have a lot of faith in that police department, that if they go there at 11:01 and they say, knock it off, they're going to have the discretion not to be throwing fines at 11:01, and people, for the most part, will knock it off. And Mr. Marcy pointed out that, we don't get a lot of noise complaints, but, I would disagree that when we get the noise complaints, we get 12 of them in a two-day
Yeah, no,
span of
yeah.
time as opposed to 12 per year.
Yeah.
Because the police go down there, and they have absolutely no power to enforce asking, pleading, negotiating. There's no power to enforce it. So it irritates everybody, and we subsequently get the phone call.
Correct.
So I hear what everybody's saying about this. And I proposed it, I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may, but at some point, we have to protect, people who don't want to be hearing, who are trying to put kids to sleep after 9 p.m. on a Monday night, where their neighbors will not comply with the police department. I mean, there's two sides of the coin as well. I don't see this as overly restrictive at all.
Mr. Fox?
I think there's been enough questions and concerns raised tonight. I will say I am a little disappointed because we gave the opportunity for the public to come before us by initiating a public hearing, and nobody has showed up to express their concerns. So right now, I feel that maybe we should redefine this and define it a little bit with more clarity, and then bring it forward at a future meeting.
Yeah. I mean, take Mr. Fox's suggestion, would it be prudent to continue the public hearing, see if anybody picks up on it, and then we can still vote on it in time for the town meeting?
You have time at your next meeting.
Right, if we continue it, maybe people will hear about it, maybe we'll get some
I'm okay with that.
dialogue, and then, Mr. Massey?
Yeah.
I like the idea. I like the original proposal.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I like that idea, continue it, because the papers are here, and people will see this on TV and on the replays, they could sort of, then they might start thinking that I want to be heard on this, no pun intended. But I'd also like to see this tightened up on the recreational side, again, use Mr. Bruder's point on we have the times here, but it's just, some people don't like to be told what to do in their own yard, especially if they have like big plots of land and not many neighbors. So just if we could tighten that up, I think I'd be happy about
So are we gonna have another bite of this apple, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, no, we'll just continue it.
Can we ask the town administrator or Michelle to add to the draft under, just to address Mr. Marcy and the chairman's concern, under the exemption, section 3, a line F, and it should say noise caused by the lawful and permitted exercise of hunting and fishing activity as an exemption.
Or, I'm just thinking like the dirt bikes and the ATVs, people are using them lawfully on their own.
Yeah, but if they're using them lawfully on their own property, they're
Within
using
the
them
right
after
times.
11 o'clock
Yeah,
at
no,
night.
right, as long as that other thing applies, right.
I just want to, I'm going to just say it one more time. This is here tonight because everyone from the reserve patrolman up to the police chief could not get noise to stop. That people would not listen and they had no teeth to back it up.
That's
And they
why
would
it's a
disturb-
bylaw proposal.
That's why it's a bylaw proposal.
To that point, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Massey?
I just want to play devil's advocate. I mean, we did, Paul, you brought up the yard sale stuff.
Yep.
We did that with a policy. Did we already determine, refresh my memory, this couldn't be done with just a policy of the board,
No.
correct? Does anybody remember?
I do.
Oh, Greg?
So if the policy, you can't have any fines.
Okay, that was my question. All right.
So is
To be a bylaw.
is someone suggesting a motion that we continue this public hearing until motion specific, the date of our next meeting, and at that time, when that public hearing is over, we will consider placing it before the people at the town meeting.
That was my proposal.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard.
I think that'll work.
Okay, now, we can't make a motion during a public hearing, so we have to close the public hearing first.
No, just take a,
We're going to extend the public?
Continue.
He doesn't need a motion to continue it, he can just declare to
Right, so
continue
I won't-
the
we will
public
close
hearing
it.
till our next
Right.
meeting.
So, absence of any discussion from the crowd. Mr. Davis?
Barry Davis, 169 Dudley Southbridge. I'm not representing any school bus company, but there are rules and regulations on the books that limit the amount of time any commercial vehicle, including school buses, are allowed to idle at one time, and that's 5 minutes during conditions like we have now, good weather, and during the winter, I believe it is 10. I'm a school bus driver in Oxford, and I have to follow those guidelines. Depending on if I have to wait at a school or pickups and so on, I have to shut down within 5 minutes in order to comply with these laws. My bus is equipped with equipment that my main bus depot can determine whether or not I am actually moving, idling, and so on. Most school buses have that. But I just want the board to be aware of that there are already existence, whether they are state or federal DOT or state DOT regulations concerning idling already in place.
Is that something that?
We have something in there on idling, that's a good point.
I know, I saw that.
Is that considered commercial activity, the school stuff? It's municipal, but...
Well, you mentioned school bus specifically, and that's what just brought it up to mind.
I'm just
'cause
thinking
I am a
those-
driver in Oxford, so just for your own information.
I know, I was just thinking, 'cause those are going to be the ones that are going to be idling first every day.
Right, 6 o'clock in the morning, I got to get up to my bus to
And you're going to put your,
idle, depending on where they are located, of course. You know, I know here in Dudley, they're over down Schofield Ave, out of earshot, but someone may bring a bus home for some reason, which does happen.
is 10 minutes sufficient in the winter? Don't you have to put some kind of black heater on?
10 minutes, yeah, it is. After you do your pre-trip, you get going, and you got to be
Chairman,
actually in
could I
motion
ask-
for them
Could
really
I
to
ask
warm
simply
up.
that you instruct the town administrator to check on state regulations? Because we don't have any local regulations.
Okay.
Let's incorporate them into the wording of a document.
Right, thank you.
We're going to continue the public hearing.
Yeah. We're just going to continue the public hearing till 6:30 at our next meeting. That'll cover us if we start at 6:45. Hopefully the word gets out, and anybody that has concerns will be heard. Item 6, Nichols College, one-day outdoor orchestra entertainment license, Friday, September 25th, 4 to 10. I just have one question. Is there going to be alcohol served at this? No? Right, then I feel comfortable voting on it. Well, we don't have an outdoor orchestra license where I work. Just want to make sure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a one-day outdoor orchestra entertainment license for Friday, September 25th, 2015, from 4 to 10 p.m., located at Chamois Hall, for Nichols College, sponsored by the Caribbean Club.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ruda, seconded by Mr. Fox. Any questions? Lynn, you've already spoken to the police chief, staffing, and
Yes, and we will have a letter going out to the abutters tomorrow.
any other questions for Lynn?
Nope.
Hearing none. All in favor of granting the request?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good luck.
Thanks, Lynn.
Public business. I'm sorry. We don't have one yet. So should be no problem. No. No, you're good, perfect. Just 1 sec, we're going to sign this license. Do you need to make a copy of that? Yeah.
Is he doing okay?
Right with my tongue.
Oh, that's right, he's left-handed.
That's pretty good.
You wouldn't mind?
No.
He always gives me drinks.
Usually Marcy's paying. Next on the agenda, 7A, Barry Davis, toll booth fundraiser practices and policies.
Yep.
Wanna come up? I'm going to let Mr. Davis speak his concern, and then
Well, I'm here at an invitation by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So I'm, here, I don't,
I'm going to turn the floor over then initially to Mr. Joseph, because he had a response through email.
Thank you for coming. When did you actually have the toll booth?
I had it on the 29th on the rain day.
August 29th?
Yes.
And how did it go?
Not as well as I had hoped because of the restricted time, according to the board. You restricted me to a 9 to 1 time, whereas the policies clearly state 8 to 1 is allowed. When I emailed the board through the website, I got a response that, to be fair to others that were given the 9 to noon policy, that the board wished to remain consistent. And I feel that that was a mistake on the board's decision, because you have a policy in place that's clearly states, and I have it right here in front of me, states 8 to 1 p.m. I was even incorrect in my request. I requested 9 to 1 originally. Your mistake, the board, the board's mistake, should not be my penalty. I was expecting about $1,300 to $1,400, as I have in the past, and I got $800, and that has put me $400 in the hole. I was expecting the fundraiser to clear my minimum of $4,500 that the Pan Mass Challenge requires me to raise this year. And because of that, I've got to find a way to come up with $400, or it comes out of my pocket. And because of the board's decision, your incorrect allowance due to the time is my penalty, out of my pocket.
On the 29th, Barry, you ran from when to when?
I was 9 to noon at the direct request and the setup of the chief of police.
So you ran it from 9 to noon?
Yes, I did. I had no choice.
All right, so you didn't stop of your own volition at noontime as
At
we had...
noontime,
Let me
the
finish,
chief
please.
came up and-
You didn't stop of your own volition.
I'm not
You
sure.
and I are going to have a conversation here, and the whole board's going to have a conversation if you just listen for a second.
Go ahead.
All right? You did not stop at noontime as instructed and permitted by this board, and had to be stopped by the chief of police. Is that correct?
The chief of police came to me just at the noon hour. I did not know exactly
So is that a
what
yes
time.
or a no? He had to stop you?
He came to me and stopped me.
Yeah, okay, all right, so it's a yes, that's all. I just wanted to know that. So my question is, knowing that the board had allowed you to have it from 9 to noon, why did you continue to go beyond, and why did you have to be stopped by the chief of police? And according to town administrator, in a conversation with the chief, why did you become arrogant?
I didn't become arrogant, sir. I questioned and respectfully, to the chief, questioned the validity of the 9 to noon to the chief, just to let him know of my feelings. I asked him then, "You're shutting me down?" And he said, "Yes, I have to." And I did. Immediately, we were off the road within 60 seconds.
So you intended to go past the noontime?
I'm going to say yes, truthfully, I was,
Okay.
because I'm very upset that the board did not follow its own policies.
But let's-
And because of that penalty, I am financially hurt.
Now, I'm curious why this money has to come out of your pocket. If you don't
Because
raise...
because when I signed on the bottom line, I agreed that I was responsible for the $4,500 and if I came up short, it comes out of my pocket. I
Is
have
that,
agreed.
is that the policy of the
Of the
Pan Mass Challenge?
It has been since day one, 33 years.
So if you don't come up with what you tell them you think you can raise, you have to come up with that some other way
If I
on your
cannot
own?
come up with the minimum for a given year, it is my requirement, and they take a credit card, and they take it out of that, and I agree to that when I sign on the dotted line.
When you say a minimum, what do you mean, Barry?
$4,500 is the minimum the Pan Mass Challenge requires each and every rider that participates in a 2-day event to raise, otherwise they will be responsible for the remainder up to the minimum of $4,500.
Have you ever exceeded $4,500?
Well, I have, yes, many times.
And
I
you're
have-
attributing your failure to achieve it this time to a how much dollar shortfall?
About $400.
So let me get this right. you've exceeded $4,500 in the past,
Yes, I have.
but you haven't reached it this time, and you're blaming the $400 shortfall for the extra hour you say you lost, which you
2
never
hours
really
that I
had?
lost according to the policies here, yes. Because if you take averages from the years in the past, I've averaged about $1,300 to $1,400 a year. Because of I've had a very difficult year fundraising myself. I was hoping that through the $1,200 or $1,300 or $1,400 that I was hoping to raise here would exceed my $4,500 minimum
Okay.
to raise.
So you acknowledge that you're having a tough year raising money overall,
Yes, I am.
and your $4,500 shortfall,
No, I'm not $4,500
I'm sorry,
shortfall.
your shortfall
Is $400,
is $400.
roughly.
Is it $400?
It's I don't know the exact figures at this moment, sir. It's approximately $400.
So you're saying that you're short exactly, or very close to exactly, the amount of money that you didn't get for the extra hour. Is that what
The
you're
extra
saying?
2 hours, I could have
wait,
potentially
you're saying you had it
raised
for 5 hours in the
$400 in the 2 hours that I am claiming I am short.
What 2 hours? You've never done it for 5 hours.
Yes, I have.
No, you've done it for 4 hours in the past.
8 to 1 is right here in the policies.
But we didn't let you go 8 to 1 in the past. We let you go for 4 hours last
No,
time.
I've gone more than the first year where I went from 7 a.m. until approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Let me ask you this. Okay, let's continue on then. Let me ask you this very quickly. How much did you normally raise from sources other than the toll booth that you fell short by this year?
I don't have those figures in front of me. I don't know how much, that's an unfair question to ask. Because some of my
Well,
sponsors either didn't donate because they couldn't, or they reduced their funding. I don't have those figures in front of me here.
We've got to go on a different tack too, but I want you to understand something. The policy doesn't say that anyone who applies can do it from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. It says those are the hours within which...
Limited to the hours of 8 to 1 p.m.
Bingo. Nowhere does it say that anyone gets 5 hours, anyone gets 4 hours, or anyone gets any hours. It says a toll booth has to be between those times. That's what it says. It doesn't guarantee anybody get those hours. It says it has to be between those times. I want to take a look real quickly at your email, which I thought was incredibly cheeky, bold, and very unfair.
No, I don't think it was unfair.
Well, I
at
know
all.
you don't. You and I aren't going to agree on this. I don't expect we ever will. But let's talk about that. You accuse us of making a mistake. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. 4 times in that email, you said we made a mistake. All right?
A mistake, yes.
No, we didn't make a mistake. The policy says we can grant within those hours. Not all of those hours, and not before or after those hours. That's what the policy says. And we have that policy because of the number of people and purposes and good causes, like the Pan Mass, who have a need. There have been so many that we've all gotten, or most of us have got, if not all of us, direct feedback from people saying those things are a pain in the neck, all right, because there are so many. We also had, I think it was the Dudley Little League, maybe wrong, and it may have been one of the youth organizations, Boys, Girl Scouts, whatever, Brownies, that said that that's the maximum. The kids get worn out after that. So this board is not stupid. This board is pretty wise, in fact. And we said that we'll do it between those hours. Some may want to start at 8, some may want to go till 1. But we don't have to give them all 5 hours. We've given everybody 3 hours. And everybody but you has been happy with it.
Well, when you read you look at this and it says whether or not you want to get to the semantics of the wording, 8 to 1 p.m. You look at that and limit it to the hours of 8 to 1 p.m. Saturday or Sunday. Does it say that the Board of Selectmen may restrict within those hours? No. Does the board have that option? Well, I question that because you have a policy that if you look at it in its form here, I can do it from 8 to 1 because you are allowing limited hours, 8 to 1, but you don't say, well, we might just decide because of your organization, or this organization, or that organization, we're gonna limit you to 9 to 1, because maybe the Brownies or the Cub Scouts.
No, we didn't say 9 to 1.
Can't go the full 5 hours, because they're young kids.
Peter, I'm sorry.
Again, if it says 8 to 1, it's 8 to 1. I'm sorry, that's just how I interpret what I see as a policy here in Dudley.
Mr. Fox?
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm disappointed. Because the town of Dudley tries very, very hard to work with organizations that are trying to have fundraisers. All kinds, for all reasons. And we support that. But we cannot guarantee that you're going to get X number of dollars. Let me finish, please. Don't interrupt me. When you're upset because you didn't have the fundraising that you wanted or get the amount of money that you wanted, what you're looking for is you're looking to blame somebody else. Let me finish. This town works very, very hard with organizations, and we've been very generous with the amount of fundraisers that we've allowed people to have. Mr. Joseph is absolutely correct, because a lot of people have complained that they can't get through that traffic light section every single weekend because of the numbers that we have. We've been kind as a board. We've been trying to be generous and appreciative to all the organizations, and we try to work with everybody. I am sorry that you didn't raise the amount of money that you were committed to, but that's between you and your organization, not the Board of Selectmen and not the town of Dudley.
I'm not making that accusation. I am saying that because the policy states 8 to 1, and because of past performances, I was able to raise X amount of dollars on an average, to which I am appreciative of the town.
But the hours you were given
the hours that are posted in the policy does not state that the Board of Selectmen may, at their discretion, restrict times within that policy, within the given time. So you have an assumption that the times are 8 to 1. And because of the lack of 2 hours, I'm not telling you that I'm blaming you. I'm telling you what happened, and I'm upset because of the lack of the following of an existing policy on your books, to which I expect to follow.
But I'm also going to point out too, Barry, I don't have the application in front of us, but we responded to you pretty quick. June 23rd, 2015, I assume you got that letter, where it clearly stated August 22nd with a rain date of August 29th with times from 9 to 12. You responded in email July 22nd to the Selectman's office, which was disseminated to the rest of the board, which generated a response from Mr. Joseph immediately on July 22nd. And somehow you chose not to even come in 5 weeks that I know of. You didn't come to the office and speak to anybody for 5 weeks. You had your fundraiser 5 weeks later, knowing that we told you in June what the times were. So actually you had another month. So 9 weeks, you were told what your times were. Obviously, this board would assume you agreed with it because you didn't have an objection to it. And I'm going to echo what Mr. Joseph said. I got a text from the police chief that day that I believe the word he used was aggravated.
Yep.
And the chief too, I can't speak for him, but I'm assuming aggravated meant that it wasn't a 60-minute breakdown, I'm all done. So just going off the evidence of the letter and your response, you had 9 weeks from the day we granted, from the day you were notified of your request to come in and ask or question or wonder why, and you chose not to. Apparently you chose not to, I should say, because you didn't come in. So we're looking like the bad guys here. We got people here tonight, I'm sure, that want to speak on it and they're looking for their days. And I'm not going to use the phrase ruin it for everybody, but there is going to be, we have a policy in place, and if we have to tighten it up, we might count setup time as part of the 3 hours. Who knows? People might lose time because of that. As Mr. Fox said, this board has bent over backwards for, I can't think of them off the top of my head, for you, for these folks, hands, the MDA for the fire department, I think he's right, it was Little League and one of the other youth groups, take it right to some of these other towns. Who else lets you stop traffic on the busiest street in your town for over 3 hours to help you make a goal? It's a very honorable ride. But find me some other towns. I'm sure there are, but find a lot of towns that allow you to block the busiest street in your town for 3 hours for a private entity to raise money.
By the way, just to reiterate, we've not denied anybody that's come in.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to note that you're the only person who interpreted the application as meaning you can have those 5 hours. No one else has asked for 4 hours. No one else has asked for those 5 hours. On top of that, this board made it clear, and with you here, we gave you permission from 9 to noon.
And I questioned that at that meeting.
Doesn't make any difference if you question it or not. We answered it. We responded. We said, this is the time. We even told you why. And then you wrote, as noted, and I mentioned, you accuse us of making a mistake 4 times. And then you...
I didn't make accusations of 4 separate mistakes.
No, you used the word mistake 4 times.
That's right.
Okay, that's what I said.
On one instance, I can use the word mistake in any number of times to regard one particular instance.
Mr. Davis, do you remember when you first applied to hold this? Do you recall that the board held up your application? We wouldn't. Yeah. Do you remember why?
I don't remember. I only remember coming in front of the board once, and I get approval that night.
Here's the point I'm trying to make, and I'll get to that. Pan Mass is a great cause. For some reason, you think you're above the law. I'm entitled to my opinion. For some reason, you think you're different. You think you're special. Here's why. All right? Even after being told the hours, and it was 3 hours. Even after coming back and saying in your July 22nd, I strongly disagree. We respect that. Everyone has a right to disagree. But then this board voted and reaffirmed it was those 3 hours.
Now, I had asked Michelle if I need to be here, and she said, no, you shouldn't. You need to be here at all. Had I needed to be here, I would have challenged that, as I challenge it now. So I feel that, to say that I didn't have a chance, an opportunity to come here, I went at the advice of Michelle and Nia that it shouldn't be a problem.
Then you have the cheekiness in that same email to say, if this regulation set by the Board of Selectmen is not followed, what other town regulation will they disregard because the BOS made a, third time, mistake? All right? And then you say, I am the one that's going to suffer. I'm the one that's going to suffer. So knowing all that, knowing whether you were here or not, we still reaffirmed the times. I'm sorry for that. I apologize. I didn't know how to shut this off.
Alex does.
And then, after that being reaffirmed, you then basically said, I'm going to disregard what you, the town fathers, the administrative leadership of this town, have said and repeated, and I'm going to go past 12 o'clock. Let's go back to when you first applied for this. And we didn't consider it, and Mr. Sullivan was on the board at the time, and if I'm wrong, stop me. We held up granting, even considering your request, because you had volunteered to do some work with our AV people. You had volunteered to help out because you had experience. You volunteered to help out Ted and Fred. And we were going to consider your proposal, and then we found out that you had borrowed equipment that belonged to the town, expensive equipment, and hadn't returned it. So we said, tell them we need to get the equipment back, all right, and we'll be glad to consider it, but we don't want to do it if he's got town equipment. That's not right. It sends a bad message. So the reason I'm saying that is, and especially in your email, it seems like it's about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. And the fact that you fell short, I'm sorry you fell short. And you're right, it's not our fault. But we can't deal with people making up their own rules after the board is authorized to make those policies.
You said it
we can't do that.
When I appeared on June 22nd, I appeared in this board, that both you and Mr. Sullivan both said it's policy. Well, if it's policy, then why am I not allowed to go 8 to 1?
Well,
Why
I
am
tell
not-
you,
why
I
did
can't
you-
believe
why
a
did you
person of
restrict-
your
why
intelligence
did
doesn't
you-
get it.
Why did you restrict me to 9 to 1? I want to know why you restricted my
All
time
right,
from 9 to 1.
does somebody else want to answer this? Because he may not listen to me again.
Well, I'm gonna interject real quick. I'm more upset now at the shot you just took at Michelle, our administrative assistant. Not only you, but everybody in this room that deals with our office knows Michelle bends over backwards. And whether or not that conversation took place, I don't know. But you're well-versed enough, you've been here enough times, you live in town, to understand if you need something from the board, we generally require attendance. We didn't tonight, we appointed a lady tonight to the Cultural Commission because she called and said, I can't make it. I'm very upset at the shot you took at Michelle. That was unnecessary, and I think you owe an apology. And second off, I stand by what I said. You had 9 weeks. 9 weeks to figure something out. And you know people come before the board multiple times for other issues. So I wasn't as upset at the email as Mr. Joseph. I'm really starting to get a little upset, and we're not going to keep going back to the policy. This board has a window, we set it, there's other people here nodding their head, they agree the times are the same that we gave them. We didn't penalize you and only you, and your opinion would be penalized. Those are the hours we set in a window. We had a lengthy discussion. The night you were here, we've had other lengthy discussions, and people understand. And I go back to what I said before, and I'm letting Mr. Fox speak, and I'm thinking about moving this along, but find me a town, more than one. Find some towns that let you block the busiest street in your town 14, 16 weekends a year, I mean, for cause. Mr. Fox.
I'm going to keep myself short. Mr. Sullivan just said what I was going to say. I resent the fact that you threw Michelle under the bus. I resent the fact that you think that we don't have the authority to set the hours. We set the hours. I am sorry you didn't meet your quota. I know it's a good cause. I wish you had met your quota, but don't blame the Board of
I
Selectmen
am
for
not
that.
blaming the Board of Selectmen. That is your interpretation of it. I am challenging the times. I just put that in there as informational to show you what happened to me and what's going to happen out of my pocket unless I can find other
Let
means.
me make myself clear one more time. We set the hours.
Mr. Fox, Mr. Massey, Mr. Ruda.
I don't want to restate what everybody else said. But my biggest thing with this is, I can't believe we've talked about this long. I'm upset Michelle got brought into this because of knowing how damn hard she works for us every day, Barry.
Well, I will
Okay?
offer
Hold
my
on,
apologies to Michelle
hold
for
on.
that, but
And there's also other people here who've been doing this as long as you, okay? And there's people watching at home. People watching at home. You know, I actually drove by and I
thought
acknowledge
you-
you and I
I-
gave to your boot drive.
I
I
appreciate-
appreciate that you're out there doing this. But you know what? This is going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Everybody's mouth. Nobody's going to want to give. They're going to They're going to keep going right by. Oh, and then it's not fair for everybody else. Okay, I mean, like Peter said, I don't want to say it as strongly, but I mean, those are the rules now. We set these are the rules. I hate
well,
to
then
be
if
as
you want to
absolute
set
as
the
that, but
rules,
it
say
is.
it here, it says, and then say it 9 to noon.
Then we'll
not
change
8
the
to 1.
policy.
Then
Michelle,
fine.
please
We
put
did.
that on the next agenda.
When did you
Chairman.
officially change these policies?
We
We'll
don't,
change it the
the
next
policy
meeting.
doesn't need to be changed. Why can't you get it through your head? We say you can have them between 8 and 1, but not for 5 hours. We say it's 3
It
hours.
doesn't say that here. It doesn't say
Barry,
that.
you sat in front of us. We told you it was 3 hours. We reiterated it was 3 hours.
And I challenged it to 3 hours because of the writing of the policy.
Kill it.
We told you what the policy meant. We explained it.
You know, before we move on, I want to reiterate what Mr. Joseph said. We've worked, I thought until about 20 minutes ago, I thought we worked very well with you specifically on these fundraisers. I don't think, there was never any malicious intent to limit one person against somebody else. What Mr. Joseph said earlier was true. We worked with you from the very beginning to ensure you have a chance to raise money.
And I've worked with the town to come up with safer areas of the area in which we fundraise, where we restricted the size. I worked with the chief in order to come up with safe, so that everyone could have a safe area for fundraising. You know, we had a big area to begin with, and because of concerns by the board, concerns by the chief, we restricted it down. And you know what? I like that what we have right now. I like that setup. There's a lot of other factors involved besides just the size because of the bridge and the way the sidewalks are designed. It helps to keep people from going around. I'm all in favor of that. My biggest contention is that you read this policy, and this is how I read it. Activities are limited to the hours of 8 to 1 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. But in nowhere does it say the board will restrict you from 9 to noon.
We
So
didn't.
I'm reading this that I can have 5 hours.
You could have done 10 to 1,
Mr. Chairman?
8 to 11.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ruda.
I'm looking at a memo sent to Mr. Davis, and then I hope, for the love of God, we move on after this, that says, it's to confirm you have been approved by the Board of Selectmen to conduct a toll booth at the town line on West Main Street on Saturday, August 22nd, with a rain date of August 29th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact my office, Greg Valiakonis. This is a moot point. This entire
What's the date of that?
conversation-
That's that 22nd letter.
That's the
I
letter.
referenced. Letter I referenced on the 22nd.
Yeah, June 23rd.
23rd, I'm sorry, after the vote.
23rd.
Mr.
And what was the
Massey,
date of my email that went, that I...
July 22nd.
So I contacted. So I don't know, understand why Mr. Ruder is saying,
Mr. Massey, and then I'm going to move it on.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if we could, I think we should add something to that bylaw that says at the board's...
Policy.
Policy, excuse me, that says at the board's discretion. So I don't know if we need a vote on that at the next meeting, but
Put it on the agenda.
can we please
if
put it on
that
the
wording was in there, then fine. I wouldn't be here speaking with you like this, and I wouldn't...
I don't believe that. I'll tell you why I don't believe it. All right? I'll tell you why. You've cooperated because you've raised your money every single year up until this year. This year, you're under the gun out of your own pocket because your fundraising has fallen short, and you were willing to ignore what this board said twice on that date and had to be closed down by the chief of police. You chose to go above and beyond on your own volition because you fell short. That's what I think, and I'm entitled to what I think.
There have been times every year where I make the phone call to the police to say, hey, I'm ready for my time at 1 o'clock, and end up going over because I'm waiting for a cruiser to come and stop traffic so that we can quickly disembark. That makes the time go over. Not on my fault, but on no fault of anybody's, because the police are busy. There have been times where I've been up to 45 minutes late on my approved start time because a cruiser wasn't available.
Well, to echo what Mr. Massey said, then we're obviously going to have to talk to the police chief, and we will do everything we can to have a cruiser there 15 minutes early to make sure you and everybody else has to walk off at the proper time, if that's what it takes. I'm going to leave it at that.
I am sorry you fell short. I really, truly am.
I appreciate that,
mean
but that is not my, and I tell you honestly, it is not my intention to bring that. I just brought it to you to show you that 2 hours made a big difference in me, in my assumption that I was going to have 8 to 1.
Just remember this, you are not above the law.
I am not above the law.
Okay.
And I made my point known to the chief of police, and this will be the last thing I say, gentlemen, so you can move on. I made my point to the chief of police, respectfully to him, because I respect him greatly, okay? There was no malicious intent. He was there just before noontime, because my kids were saying, my gosh, it's not even noontime yet, Dad. Okay? And I immediately went, I said, okay, I challenge it, but I'm going to get off now. 60 seconds later, we're off the road. All right, so this interpretation of I'm blaming the Board of Selectmen for my shortfalls.
That's how you start. That's how you started off. Your original statement was, "You guys made me short 2 hours, and I'm $400 short." We can play the tape and watch it again. I'm ending the discussion.
Okay.
We're moving on. The turkey trot people are here. Thank you for coming in, Barry.
Well, I came in at the invitation.
That's why I just said thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I said thank you for coming in. Turkey trot, Heather Bose.
Hi, Heather.
It's okay. Honest, it's okay.
Okay, we're all warmed up. Go ahead.
Should have brought reinforcements.
I'm here with from the PTO, hoping to have our turkey trot again on Thanksgiving Day at 8 a.m. following the same route that we ran last year.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we allow Heather and the PTO to have the town beach for the second annual Turkey Trot 5K on Thanksgiving.
Motion made.
Thanksgiving Day, starting time?
8 a.m.
With the snow and ice date of Sunday, November 29th.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Paul.
you.
Setting up at 7.
Setting up at 7. Make the motion to say set up at 7.
Yeah, I can do that.
That okay
Michelle?
with the second?
Second, yep.
Good.
Have you talked to the police chief? Does he know? Because and the highway guys give you barriers, right, to block the roads? Have you already touched base with those guys?
I
All
haven't
set?
talked to him.
Okay.
We do it every year. We've got a phone call.
All set. Any further questions?
Last year, we were cleaned up and out of there within an hour.
Yeah. No, I know it went well. Because then the beach people took your run for another fundraiser in the spring, right? Wasn't that the same?
Actually, we
They
took the
took
beach
theirs.
people's run.
Oh, that's what, oh, yeah, you guys, they were so well, we allowed another group to raise money.
We appreciate it.
Nice of us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good luck. Oh, sorry.
Hold on.
Fire and EMS.
Request the EMS coverage
Yes.
because the Shepherd Hill's hosting a,
No, it's at Tantascwa this year.
No, it's not.
No, it's at
It's
home.
home.
It's on the schedule, is that way?
It's home.
I
I talked to someone the other day,
the
and they
person
both said
that
it was home.
usually does it is.
Can we volunteer Scott again?
No, he's already signed up for the.
Football game?
For the football game, but I mean, I don't think it'll be a problem. I'll just post it and get somebody different to do it. I just want to know ahead of time, so.
Yeah, can you touch
We
base
can
with,
plan
Should
for
be
it.
okay.
can you touch base with Heather, chief?
Okay.
I'll
All right.
find you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's getting out of here while she can.
Chief, you'll have to. Next up, Relay for Life. Ribbon Rockets team, Diana LeBlanc.
How are you?
You know, we're great. We're really great. Thank you.
Yes.
You know, this is our 10th year, and we did start it 10 years ago. We were the original toll booth people, and it was 3 hours. It's still 3 hours. It will always be 3 hours.
Thank you.
So you had no trouble reading the policy?
Huh?
You had no trouble reading and understanding the policy?
No, we love the,
Accepting the decision.
we love the new policy. The only question I had was, it does say you have to be 18 years or older, and you mentioned that the children were, the Boy Scouts were out there. I'm thinking they're not 18.
I think they had adult volunteers and they were on the side.
Yep.
It was something that, they weren't actually, I don't think, doing it.
Yeah.
No.
So other than that, no, I didn't have a problem at all.
Good.
Mr.
So-
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute,
We're gonna
wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Read the letter, please.
read the letter?
Yeah, read the letter.
Why?
Because it says 8 to 1.
Well, it says 8 to 1, but
Yeah,
that's
but we're
because
gonna-
of your thing, but
You'll
here
accept the
it
window.
says 9 to 12.
Yeah, I did
So
see
we
9 to
approved
12.
it.
Now,
9
let's
to
change the
12.
letter, please. I'm not going to go through this again.
And
Oh.
we've always been 9 to 12.
We've always been 9 to 12.
You have been,
And we're
that's why I was
perfectly
surprised to
happy
see
with
the
9 to
hours.
12.
Well, only because the thing came, so I said 8 to 1, but we're not 8 to 1, we're 9 to 12.
Okay.
We set up before 9, so
Okay.
that's a little bit after 8, and then we break down at 12.
And if you told us
Perfect. Sounds
8:30
good.
to 11:30, we
We'd be
would
there
do that.
11 to
We'd be
8:30,
good.
whatever you want.
Well, if 9 to
you
12
tell
works
us.
for
We
you,
appreciate
What do you want
it.
to do?
if 9 to 12 works for you,
Yeah.
Yes.
And-
Make a
That's what
motion,
you've done in the
Mr.
past,
Chairman, to
right?
grant
It's a
permission to
wonderful
hold a toll
opportunity for our
booth
team.
on Saturday, October 10th, 2015, from 9 a.m. to noon at the Webster Dudley Town Line to raise money for the American Cancer Society,
Second.
As per their request,
as per
their request on the application.
motion made with multiple seconds. Now, you guys, ladies don't have a rain date. You're on that day no matter what.
Yeah, cancer doesn't stop for rain.
Well, I know that.
So, you're going to go no matter what?
Yep.
We have
We-
been
we
wet
have been-
before.
We have
Okay.
been soaked before.
Okay.
Good.
And there's no question before we vote that 9 to 12 absolutely works.
Absolutely. It's never changed in 10
Because you'll get one of
years.
those letters
Okay.
that we were just talking
All right,
about.
you're going to get a confirmation letter from the office.
Michelle always confirms.
Listen,
She does.
you're not
It's
telling us
amazing.
nothing.
Always
does.
does.
Not telling us anything we don't know. Motion made with multiple seconds. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
So much.
Thank you so
Good luck.
much
Guys, good
Welcome
luck.
back.
for the
Good luck.
10th year in a row.
Yay.
You guys should get some kind of award.
We should, right?
Mr. Chairman?
We made $75,000 in our 10 years of fundraising.
Oh, I love you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. Congratulations, wow.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Mr. Ruda.
I'll make a motion to grant the parking waiver to Dudley Grange, number 163, for Saturday, October 3rd, for the Apple Festival.
Motion made?
Second.
Second. Police chief's not here. I assume that group has talked to the chief, just confirm with the chief, because they might want detour traffic. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Economic Development Committee, we have a request from the chairperson, Joanne Shimshak, to the public. We need members. It's a 7-member board. There's currently 4. 5 are appointed by our board, and 2 are appointed by the planning board. So if anybody out there would like to serve on the Economic Development Committee, please contact the Selectman's office or the Planning Board's office, as we will take multiple volunteers. Mr. Fox.
I just want to comment that I attend all of the Economic Development Committee meetings along with the town administrator. I believe it's a very, very important committee that's serving the town, and I would ask all volunteers and people out there to consider joining that committee.
Mr. Massey.
Yeah, I'd second that, Mr. Fox. And, back when Mr. Ruda originally brought this idea up, it was something that local business leaders got involved with. I'd love to see some Dudley business people really get involved, because they will have a lot of ideas and things. Because remember, not just we want to retain business as well as get new business, and so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
It's actually been a pretty active committee, too.
Yeah.
Mr. Ruda.
Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't be opposed to the town administrator nominating, doing a little bit of recruiting for that.
Yeah, maybe through the Webster Dudley Business Alliance.
Making nominations to us for appointment.
Yeah. People contact you, Greg. You can filter them out. Hopefully we get more than one. Fire Chief.
Which ones are the planning board?
This is 5 and 2.
Which 5, which 2?
Chief, good evening.
Good evening. So I spoke with the town administrator last week, and I spoke with the billing company, and they made a suggestion that we should have, at this point, a 5% increase in our ambulance rates across the board. We've had some increased costs with supplies, and specifically drugs have gone up quite a bit. So I'm trying to get this ahead of time a little bit, because I may ask for a little extra money next year in EMS funding to pay for these supplies. So if we can get it through increased billing, it doesn't come out of the taxpayer money.
Anybody have a question for the chief? Mr. Joseph.
Chief, is there some kind of state formula requirement for what we need to justify any rate increases?
It's usually either Medicare plus 100% or Medicare plus 200%, but it's fluctuated so much, it's hard to tell. But we did do a survey of area towns, and some towns were a little below, other towns were a little above. So she said a 5% increase is reasonable at this time. And the last time I raised rates, which was 4/1 of 2014, we only raised the major ones like the BLS and the ALS. We didn't, all the incidentals down below, we haven't raised those in probably 3 or 4 years.
So then my second question is it your understanding that this rate increase falls safely within the guidelines established
Yes.
to justify increases?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any questions for the chief?
And just a note, if you approve this tonight, it would take effect on October 1st.
October 1st. So you want us to vote on those tonight?
Yeah, if that's all right.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I know the board was interested in knowing the anticipated amount of revenue that we will bring in as a result of this is about $18,000. And as the chief pointed out, our supply costs have gone up, but our base wages have also gone up as a result of the contract settlement. So this money is money that we need to continue our operation at the same staffing level. So about $18,000 in revenue.
Okay.
Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Fox, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Mr. Fox. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion.
I was going to make a motion. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Is
Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve, number one, that we date this document today, as a draft today, that we approve this document with that date on it, effective October 1st, and that these new rates be published for public information on the town website for a period of not less than 2 weeks.
Motion made by Mr. Joseph. Is there a second? Multiple seconds again. Chief, I just want to add a thank you. As always, you print it, you explain it. It's easy to understand, easy to follow. So I thank you for simplicity.
Thanks.
Any other further questions for the chief? Hearing none. All in-
Just real quick,
Mr. Ruda.
Mr. Chairman.
I tried.
Just, chiefs, so people who are watching this understand, this is all, this impact is reimbursable by insurance, right? We're
Right.
not outside the realm
This has
of
nothing to
what...
do with the tax rate. That's why I'm doing it, because it doesn't affect people's taxes whatsoever. It comes out of insurance.
Good point.
Mr. Massey.
And just the question I think I asked last time we did this, and it's comparable to the other towns in the area?
Yes. I had stated, Mr. Joseph asked a little while ago, and some towns were a little above, but other towns were a little below. So we're kind of right in the middle. So we're in a good spot.
Okay.
But like I said, the call volume goes up, and also, I don't know what the reason for it is, but specifically, there's certain drugs that are getting harder to get, and they keep driving the cost up.
You have a motion and a second? All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thanks.
Thanks, chief. Where'd he go? It's his chance to shine. I'm going to take the board member comments out of order until our student rep comes back. Anybody have anything they want to add?
Yeah.
Mr. Joseph.
At the last meeting, I asked the town administrator if he would check into what the costs were, legal costs, to defend the planning board's vote, which ultimately denied, and led to a lawsuit by the solar array company. And I bring it up because, and I want to make this clear, I didn't take any heat for saying it took guts to be a public official. Those people who voted against it turned out weren't even, of any consequence, because it didn't need a supermajority. But the point is, they thought they were doing what was right, even though they were advised that night that it was a mistake and it would lead to a lawsuit. They voted their conscience, and I credit them with doing that. Yet, that decision still cost the town $3,770 in legal fees. Legal fees that we did not have to incur. So I know in subsequent discussions with them and with the rest of the members of the planning board, they understand. They understand what they did. They understand that the amount of research that's required before taking a vote, and it was a lesson for all of us to have learned from. I want to point out that thanks to the astute negotiation skills of the town administrator, he was able to negotiate in the pilot agreement with the company putting up the solar array on the Jacobson property. He was able to arrange for them to reimburse the town $3,000, not for what it cost us to defend the planning board's action, but for the legal paperwork that was required to provide the parameters for the town, through the town administrator, to draw up a very favorable and workable pilot agreement. So even though they're out of two different pockets, on the one hand, we spent $3,770, and Greg was able to come up with $3,000 for a different reason to help in legal costs. So I appreciate that, and I know, like I say, it's a lesson we all learned.
Mr. Fox.
I just want to remind the board that on Wednesday night at 6:30, there is a joint meeting with the administrator and the water and sewer departments. And I am going to attend that meeting, and I would hope as many selectmen that could possibly come would attend that, because I think that's a very important issue of discussing the Department of Public Works.
Mr. Marcy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing. I had a complaint that I got from a resident about on Village Street. Seems to be an ongoing yard sale of some sort. And I just wanted to make sure that was on somebody's radar and we were, if it was properly taken care of. So.
I noticed the yard sale on my way into work every day. Seems to have no end to it. We will be following it up.
Wonderful. Thank you. Lots of different things there. So thank you, guys.
Mr. Ruda?
I've sent the town administrator a resolution that I'd like to put on our agenda for the 28th. I'd like to pass it unanimously. Of course, we can't have a conversation about it. So I'm going to ask the town administrator to work with everybody to see if it's a workable resolution that we can pass on the 28th. Just to put it on your radar screen.
What kind of resolution? We can't talk about.
Oh, no, I'm going to discuss it.
I'm curious now.
Before I go back to Alex, I just want to add some quick words. You guys took care of it at the last meeting. I wasn't able to make. We lost Audrey Bacon, who was a extremely active member with the seniors and other boards in town. And I know you guys sent out sympathies. I'd like to send my sympathies also in with the shocking passing of Sergeant Daniels. Everybody knew Pam when she was an officer and a sergeant, and like I told her brothers at the wake, her father, I said, everybody had a Pam story, and they were all good. And Mr. Fox has told me Joan Gardecki's mother passed recently. Joan's jack of all trades clerk. She works with the accountant, the personnel board. She's in town. She's one of those limitless resources we seem to always have. And she always speaks for the entire board, and we send our sympathies to Joan and her family. Thank you, Mr. Fox. I'm going to back up to number 8.
He wants to ask.
Oh, Alex? Student rep.
I would also just like to extend my sympathy to the Nawasadko family who recently lost their father at PJ's overhead door. So.
Good one, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Student reps report. First one in 3 months.
Yes. Okay, so this coming Thursday is the first honors dinner for all the students who achieved first honors for all 4 quarters last year. And then this coming Saturday is the opening and the ceremony of the brand new field for the football team versus Leominster. And it begins at 1 o'clock, and they're going to have an opening ceremony, and then the game will begin at roughly 1:30, 1:45 versus Leominster. They had a game this past weekend at St. John's, and they fell short in the 4th quarter. They battled hard the entire game. I was watching it play-by-play on my phone because I was unable to attend. But they fell short on that one. But everyone's feeling confident about this week. If you were able to contend with such a high contender like St. John's, they're feeling confident this week. We also, towards the end of this month on the 25th, we hold our freshman barbecue for all the incoming freshmen. And on the 23rd, on that Wednesday of that week, they get to hold their elections and find out who are going to be their officers for the incoming years in high school. And we also have the SATs, which will be taking place on Saturday, October 3rd at 7 o'clock in the morning for all the lovely juniors and seniors that are willing to wake up and get ready for it.
You taking them again, or are you confident?
I'm taking them one more time.
I don't blame you.
Just to go higher.
Many times as you can.
How can you go higher than 1,600, Alex?
I gotta go for that 20. I gotta go for that 2,400.
2,400.
If you only get a 16, you better take it again.
Yeah. So.
And he also
Longest been
mentioned
since
that.
I've taken it.
Tell him what you think the case is with the Thanksgiving game.
Right.
Oh, I heard that because people were saying that it was away, but last year it happened to be away because it was our turn to have it last year, but due to the fact that the field, it got moved to Tantascwa. Right. So we are taking it back this year where it would originally be Tantascwa.
You need to double check that, because the schedule online does say.
Does it?
At
Because
Camp
someone
Aspen.
said the other day when I was talking with someone, they said, yes, the game will be here on Thanksgiving morning. I talked to people with the Booster Club, so.
And I thought Leominster game got moved to Saturday night.
It is, it's, no, it was originally this Friday night.
Right. It got moved to Saturday
Yeah,
afternoon.
I'm going because we're still scheduled for student council. We're still scheduled to be there for 12 o'clock to start setting up the concession stand because we're expecting a huge crowd and we need to have a great supply of drinks, food.
Okay. Well, I'm going to double check that, but you're probably right. Town administrator's report.
I don't know if I can do any better than what Alex just
Oh,
said.
yes, you can.
Alex, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, it's good to have
be
you.
back.
I note that the chairman of the planning board is here, and I suspect that he's here just to indicate that the planning board has a special meeting scheduled for this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. to discuss the Tobin Farms subdivision. And Mr. Chairman, I would defer to you or Mr. Horn if there's any additional information.
Mr. Horn, can you come up? Now, this is strictly informational. No
Correct.
no
There's no vote of
actions.
the board that's required.
This is under departmental communication.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just wanted to bring the board's attention to, we had a meeting, our last meeting on the 9th.
Guys, speak up for me, please.
Excuse me. We had the last meeting of the planning board on the 9th, and at that meeting, we were informed by a local contractor in town that's going to be undertaking the task of finishing up Tobin Farms subdivision, that the current funds that are in the escrow account that the contractors have left over from finishing the subdivision are not enough to complete the subdivision per the approved plan that the planning board approved back in, I believe, 2002, 2003 timeframe. And we have in your packets, you should have a list. I checked with Michelle before the meeting. You should have a list from town engineer, Graves Engineering, which is Jeff Walsh, of 21 items that he went out and identified as needing to be completed for a complete subdivision based on the plan that was approved. Of those 21 items, the local contractors outlined fall short on quite a few of the items. The big items that are falling short, basically what the local contractor is proposing on doing is raising all the, I believe he said there was 85 structures to be raised, and repaving, applying a tack coat and repaving the entire subdivision with a 2-inch top coat in phases 1 and 2. The other items that were not going to be able to be finished with the funds were number 5 was no bounds to be installed in phase 1 or 2. The bounds were just either granite or concrete markers that denote where the town's property line ends or begins. This is something that we usually require all subdivisions to put in place before that subdivision can be accepted by the town. Because this board is the highway commissioners, I wanted to make you aware of this. I wouldn't want the planning board to waive something and then use not to be in agreement with our thinking or our votes, and basically get to a sticky situation where a subdivision that we thought was complete is really not complete. I think the meets and bounds are something that would definitely have to be discussed and I think installed. The other thing that they were talking about there was no money for was there's no money for a as-built plan. And I think that as-built plan is one of the requirements that the town needs to go to town meeting and accept the roads. There are some other, basically, storm retention basins. I believe there was 3 shown on the plan for the subdivision. From what I understand from the engineer's letter, 1 is complete and functioning. 1 has not been constructed, and the second one is not totally complete. So it's basically out of 3 stormwater basins, there's 1.5 complete, 1.5 needs to be completed. This is at the contractor's estimate, an additional cost of $91,000 that's not in the escrow account. Another item that was listed on the contractor's list was sidewalks for Phase 2. I drove over there tonight to see what was done and what was not done. The contractor's listing that there needs to be 2,200 plus or minus linear feet of sidewalk installed. I drove over there. I looked at the map earlier today. My estimate would be my estimate would be probably 900 to 1,000 feet of sidewalk. It's not 2,200 feet. It's a lot less. And I would like to point out that when this subdivision was approved by the planning board, that half of the sidewalks were waived. So they're only putting in sidewalks basically on one side of the roads. So what they have completed of the 50% of sidewalks that we required, I'd say they're probably at about 60%. 60 to 65% of the sidewalks are there. So there's an additional 35 to 40% of the sidewalks that's missing. The quote on that to finish something like that was $35 per linear foot. So it's around, if it's 1,000 feet of sidewalk missing, it's a $35,000 bill. So we have a special meeting. We're going to hold it this Wednesday. At our last meeting, many of the homeowners that live there attended our meeting. I got the feeling from the homeowners that, it's been 12 to 13 years since this subdivision was approved. They would like it to be finished, and they would like it to be accepted by the town so that they can now receive town services such as plowing and sanding. But I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to put in waivers for things that this board is going to believe that need to be required for the town to accept that road. And then we're basically stuck with not being able to finish it the proper way.
Through the chair.
Mr. Ruda.
No, go ahead, John.
Has the highway superintendent had a chance to review this at all?
I don't know.
If he's going to be maintaining and plowing the roads?
Is this the first you've seen of this?
Yeah, first I've seen of this. So it'll take me a little while to look at it and see what's going on.
I think.
Have you been up there lately, Danny?
No.
It's a mess.
No, yeah.
It's a mess.
My instinct, Mr. Chairman, would be not to.
Act on it.
It's certainly not act on accepting anything until we know what we're getting into. And I'm also concerned about the precedent that these waivers will set with all the other developments we've been struggling with that didn't meet the proper approvals way back when.
Plenty of them.
And want their streets plowed and accepted.
Guy, the letter that we have dated September 11th, it's not signed, 1/21. Is that put out by the engineer, or is that put out by somebody else?
The one that starts out at to Town of Dudley.
It says attention Nancy Runkle?
Yeah, that's from the local contractor.
So that's from the contractor?
That's from the contractor.
So we can assume that these are, Fire Chief, you waived an installation of a cistern?
Yeah, they came and spoke to me last week.
It says listern, but it's supposed to be cistern.
Yeah, yes, correct. I didn't write the
And
document.
then, one sec, number 20 says 15-foot pipe. It's supposed to be 15-inch,
Right,
because 15 feet would be considerable.
yeah.
Chief,
There is one cistern up there, and it is full, and it is in working order. I felt at this point, it was so long ago, you don't really have any backbone to make them put it in now, and you don't have the money to do it, so...
well, but the regulation that was in place and was agreed upon, still in place, I believe. It has to be a monetary donation.
Yeah, and I believe there was wasn't there a monetary donation for Engine 1?
Not from that developer, not for that project. I believe there's a different project in town they may have been
I
affiliated
did state
with.
to the person that came and saw me from the planning board when we went over it that it was only for this specific project, as far as I'm concerned, and no other ones.
Pierpont Estates got waivers with a financial donation.
Not from me.
No, I'm telling you, when I was on the planning board. Perryville
I'm
Farms,
talking about anything in the future.
but I'm talking about,
Right.
as we start getting into what's going to be waived, I agree with whoever just said it. I don't want to be in a point where It's like a similar project in town where the developer just folded up his tent and stuck us. Are people, granted buildings down, you know, are people going to come in and agree to the world and then wait 5, 6, 8 years and come back and say, you know, 1 to 21, I can do 6 of them. That's all I'm getting at, because some of these, and as Mr. Guyan said, he hasn't seen any of these, and there's still some vacant lots up there, and if that road gets chewed up, guess what? Your highway commissioners are going to recommend acceptance, and everybody at home, including the people that live there, are going to suffer. Marcy.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, you know, Guy, we get the same complaints from that neighborhood and others, right? But if we're going to do this, we've got to do it right. You know, like I said, I'm like Mr. Rhoda said, precedent is a dangerous thing. I know everybody, we went through this with the plowing, right? And overzealous contractors who went up there, they originally have good intentions, but market conditions change, you know, people kind of up and leave, and the residents are left holding the bag in some way. So we have to be cognizant of that and make sure it gets done right. Because it's a nice thing.
Has that subdivision officially expired, or they've been renewed?
Yeah, I believe it has officially expired.
Do you know what date it expired on? Because they transferred a lot last year in there.
So I think we extended their covenant just before we gave them the last lot. The last lot sold in 2014.
So they had the covenant was extended at that time?
Yeah, I think it was extended for that lot to sell.
Subsequent to that, it's expired, so nothing can... Is your intention Wednesday to have a public hearing?
No, our intention was to basically go over these two lists again and, you know, talk with the developer and the contractor and see what's possible to do. I mean, I think if it's all coming down, it sounds like to me it's all coming down to dollars and cents. So it may be that we have to look at this and get a little creative, you know. I mean, if there's 1.5 stormwater detention basins up there, and they've been, the 1.5 that's been built has been functioning and taking the stormwater away for the last 12 years, I don't honestly think we have a problem with stormwater retention, because if we did, I think somebody up there that lives up there would have came to us long before now and said, hey, you know, this ain't working right. I got water in my backyard, or I got water in my basement, or the road's flooded.
Right.
We haven't seen anything like that.
So if the original conditions, which I voted on, were put in through the public hearing process, don't you have to go back to a public hearing to change them?
If it's deemed a major modification, yes. If it's a minor modification, no.
So, I hate to put you on the spot, in your opinion, is this considered major, what they're asking for?
All of it, I would say yes, but one or two other things, maybe not, or maybe modifying it to some degree. I mean, like, I don't know what was approved for sidewalks. I know we approved half the sidewalks, only on one side. Our typical subdivision control bylaw says the sidewalk's going to be 5 feet wide. Maybe the rest of the sidewalks in phase 2 only get built 3 feet wide, you know, to save money. And I know we say that our top coat on the roads are 1.5 inches thick, or 2 inches thick. Maybe we put them in at 1.5 inches thick, so we have the additional asphalt to pave the sidewalks. I don't know.
Yeah, but then we run into we'll be long gone. We run into a road, it's 1.5 inches enough.
Question I got to also, and maybe Guy can answer it. I mean, is it proper documentation if there's a foot of gravel on that road? Is the drainage system put in properly? Those drainage systems don't work. There's all berms around all the basins, so there's no road water getting into them.
Right.
I mean, you know, we have to know if those are working properly.
Who's going to
We're
check
get
that?
stuck. If that drainage system isn't working or the road doesn't have a foot of gravel, I mean, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, somebody's going to be paying for it. I'll be gone, but it'll be somebody else's headache.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is information only, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, let me give you some information.
Only.
Only. I hope and I pray that the planning board does not make any decisions that will place the town in any kind of liability, financial or work-wise, in the future. Plain and simple. We never accepted Paula Lane Circle Drive. And we only agreed, we didn't even agree to maintain them. We agreed to plow them in case of emergencies. Isn't that correct, Dan?
That's correct.
All right? So I wouldn't anticipate that we're going to accept the Tobin Farm Estates roads. I wouldn't accept that we are going to do anything other than plow them if we do that in case of an emergency. But every manhole is sticking up, every sewer grate is sticking up. You take a ride around there. So whatever you do, please don't make any decision that's going to put the town in any form of liability now or in the future.
And Paul, you could have added, and Danny knows well, the vote we took with Paul Elaine, they must show, I believe the term was substantial progress to getting those roads accepted.
Yep.
They were supposed to come back, I believe it was
That's it.
every October, to show at least some progress.
Right, so they're going to be coming in like 3 weeks, and there's been zero,
I don't know.
to the best of my
They'll
knowledge.
come in if we ask.
Right, Mr. Chairman, I would,
They don't get plowed because the vote expires.
as Mr. Joseph said, I would agree, and I would ask Mr. Horn to please work very closely with the highway superintendent, because that's going to be, if it doesn't meet his approval, then it's not going to meet our approval, and it shouldn't meet your approval for acceptance for a road, because he has to maintain it. So if you're looking for a way to protect the town, that would be the way to start.
Okay.
Through the chair, I agree, and that's, like I said, if we're gonna get it done, let's get it done right, because the end goal is getting that road, that neighborhood accepted. If we cut corners now because of certain things, then it will get messed up later, in my opinion.
I think the end goal is to get those residents at least to the point where it can possibly be accepted. I mean, acceptance is not guaranteed, and we had that discussion with all the lane people.
That's always the goal, yeah.
I've never seen a road not accepted,
Then to Vista Lane.
but then it got fixed and it got accepted.
Well, first time around it got shot.
Right, because there was many problems for a small street. No offense, Mr. Horn, you know better than most. I echo what they said. We understand the letter of credit may not cover everything, and I certainly want to see that road get to where it deserves. But we got to be careful. I mean, someone's got to have records. Whoever put that base coat in, whatever the contractor, someone's got to have a
There's
record.
a Form H, we just got to find it and see if it's...
Yeah, you got to be something in the Form H.
Well, the developer works through Form H, but I
We
don't
need
know if
to-
he still has it.
We need to unsort the legal web of what's the pattern of contracts? What's the contract, written or implied, between the developer and the town, between the bank and the developer that has a letter of credit, and between the bank and the town? All right, and there may be others. And that's my suggestion, is untangle that web of legal obligations, and that'll tell us where we have freedom to move or not move.
Not to, oh, sorry, John. We allowed other subdivision in town to do some building, and the promise was they were going to come back with some funds to complete their road to the town specs, and they sold those lots and they built the houses. We never saw a dime.
That's a fellow up on
Partridge Hill.
Partridge Hill Road. Yeah, he reneged on us.
So,
That's our fault for not going after him.
Which, Mr. Chairman, which brings me to my point.
which we
I mean,
did. Sorry.
Right, no, which brings me to my point. I mean, not only are we untangling the web for what happens on Tobin Drive, but I want to stop this for future subdivisions. I mean, because we got this happening up at, like I said, not just Paul Lane Circle Drive, but Eagle Drive, there's houses going up in there, and hey, it's almost fall. We're going to start hearing about the snow again, right, in case of emergencies and all that other stuff. But what assurances can we have, I mean, not just from the planning board, but that we're not going to underfund these letters of credit or going forward? I mean, I feel like, not to throw anybody under the bus, but we rubber stamped a lot of stuff just to bring people in, you know?
I think the Tobin problem, not to interrupt, John,
No, go ahead, Steve.
is, correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, or Dan, you know better probably than all of us. It's been so long that the cost just completely escapes what they had for a letter of credit. And maybe, I was on the board in the beginning, but subsequent to that, we should have maybe, as the engineer for renewal, could have said, listen, 10,000 is enough, we need 15.
But I'll tell you what, so John's point is excellent, and that is, what I heard you say, John, was we need to review what our requirements are, long-term,
Right.
as well as short-term, to protect the town. And obviously, we may not obviously we're not doing that. And we need to take a look at reviewing what we're going to require.
And to not just the town, but also the residents. I mean, they're paying a lot of money for these houses, willingly, I might add, but you know, they're paying taxes too. I hear it all the time. I mean, I have a lot of friends who live in that neighborhood and some of the others, and it just, you know, I get it. When's the end of the tunnel?
You
So
know, and-
I think it's incumbent on the town to like figure out what we're going to do, what we'll accept, and if we have escalators, and as the year goes, if you don't finish it in 5 years, okay, 30% contingency gets added on to what they have to
I
come
think
up
that's
with.
good to do
Yeah, I
that.
think at some point, Mr. Chairman, maybe
Not to beat it.
we
No, but you're right.
charge the town administrator with investigating this further, maybe not tonight, but at some point in the near future, we need to look at where we're going wrong during this process. Are we not, you know, what procedures are not being followed, what's being let go, what's falling through the cracks, where we continually run into this issue where we're trying to accept roads that are not acceptable
Well,
and don't meet our
We
criteria.
don't have the side deal through the chair, any side deal stuff, I think, that used to happen in the past. Those days are over.
Well, here we go too with what Paul likes to say. I'm sure the intent is to get this approved.
Right.
They want to do it this fall.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
now we're up against, what, an 8-week window before the plants close?
yeah, they're saying
10?
October 25th is like their drop dead date of getting going.
Do what, guy?
Awfully hard to
October
do.
25th,
What do
they
you always
mentioned
say
like a
about
drop
someone
dead date
else's-
of getting it done.
Problem,
gonna work.
expediency is not,
Yeah.
October what?
It
October
ain't our
25th.
problem yet.
To get the work done. Oh, I did.
that's what I'm saying, we're gonna be up against a window of opportunity.
Again.
We're not up against anything. The contractor's up against it to get the work.
Yeah, but the contracting no longer exists as a corporation. I understand, that may not be true. So someone's
Half of
holding
it
the bag,
does.
and as far as I'm concerned, it's that letter of credit, but I don't know what right we have to that letter of credit. I sure as heck don't want the cost to exceed what we could get from a letter of credit, if we can even get it at all.
Right.
So that's where the legal entanglements have to be unwound first.
Well, I had Michelle do a little research, and contrary to what was said earlier, Michelle does a great job. And we found a real estate transfer for 125, I remember, for the lot, that last lot I was talking about, Mr. Horn. So somebody, as recently as 2014, not a resident in that development, received a sizable check.
The last lot, the developer and his attorney, Mr. Ehrlich, came before us back in October of 2014 and asked that we release that lot because they had a deal pending.
It's the piece, that's the part that needs to be
The one up the back
ironed
is
out.
still for sale?
All right,
No,
let's
that's
chase it
sold.
down.
It's not.
Let's
It's
chase it
sold.
down.
Someone
I
built
know
on
which
it.
one
Yeah,
it is.
it was a $90,000 lot, it's sold.
Yeah.
I think
I
it
know
was
exactly which
listed
house it
higher
is.
than that on the website.
And
On
that
the
entire,
registry of
The last
deeds.
house.
the entire, the attorney assured us that the entire proceeds from that lot sale would go right into the escrow account.
And how much
at that
went?
time- At that time, there was nothing said to the planning board that there was not enough money to finish the subdivision. We were under the impression in 2014, when the attorney and the developer came before us, that they sell this last lot, they had enough money. We thought they were going to finish it in 2014. He said they were going to try to do everything in their power to get it done in 2014. Obviously, they didn't get it done in 2014, and now here we are in October, coming up of 2015, and now they're telling us as of
So
last
somebody
week-
else gets their hand out before us, and we might end up getting screwed.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know,
That's the thing. Everybody wants to make their money back because they had a lot of invested in this.
we'll go off the beaten path, but was that a verbal agreement, or did they give it to you in writing saying, we're going to put the proceeds? Was that a condition of a release, that the money would go, or they just said, we're going to do it, and they got the lot, and they went out here laughing?
Do you know the answer to that?
The attorney told us that he was going to put it in escrow account. We asked him for a letter and an accounting of all the funds, and he told us he was going to get it to us. As far as I know, we never
Crickets?
received it. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask simply, do you need any more information from us?
No, I know what to do now.
Okay. Do we need any more information from him? If not, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask that you urge the town administrator to gather whatever pertinent facts he can in this case
By
and
Wednesday?
provide them to us, even if it's just a listing, as soon as he can.
Wednesday?
They have a
They
meeting
have a meeting Wednesday about this.
I mean, whatever he can gather by Wednesday is fine, and whatever we can get after that in addition is even better. Let's just get whatever facts we can.
Still want to get it.
I would be interested to know two things. Since it was approved during a public hearing process, to alter it, you must have to go through a public hearing process. You already said you deem it major, if they want all this,
If they wanted it all, I would think it would be major.
and I would agree. And second off, I want to know if that attorney, I'm not questioning Guy's memory, did say he was going to deposit the money. I want to know why it wasn't done, and I think we need a response from the planner on that one, because if she's the full-time employee in that office, that should have been phone call number one on Thursday morning. Do we have a copy of that letter?
We can pull the tape from that.
I
meeting
just said we
also.
need $35,000, Mr. Chairman, to finish sidewalks. I mean, that could have,
Well, they're going to, no, they're going to ask for a waiver.
I know, but I'm just saying, I mean,
I'm
$90,000, that would have.
And I know we're getting off the path again, but in my time on the planning board, and Guy knows he was there, those are the trades. You don't put a sidewalk in, you save thousands of dollars, you give us,
X. Yep.
and you end up with Mason Road without sidewalk. Of course, it's not a through street, but you end up with kids in the street, and good luck.
Okay.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Are you ready for a motion to adjourn?
No, he's
Oh, Greg still got more?
You got to get to his
Couple
report.
more things.
Sorry.
I promised to speed through them. I'm sorry that first item took so long to get.
It was good, it was important.
needed to.
You have a listing of fall town meeting warrant articles have been submitted to date. We're just doing a running list. Please get back to me if you have any questions about those. Just call me or email me and I can explain them. We talked a little bit about the solar pilot agreement for 55 Dudley Oxford Road. And Mr. Joseph mentioned it, and thank you for your comments, sir. I appreciate them. The agreement is resolved in principle between the two parties, so we've agreed on language. And I've sent it off to town council for his review and his comments. And if he approves it, I expect that it'll be back before the board in its meeting in 2 weeks to be approved. And I've asked the developer to sign it, that we won't sign anything unless he signs it.
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 documents, all 3 relating to the Jacobson one.
Yes. they
That's the
all-
payment, that's the
all-
draft pilot, and then 2 documents that have Bacon and Wilson letterhead on it.
Exactly what that is, sir. That is the notice of dropping the appeal that had been hanging out with the zoning board of appeals for an extended period of time.
Okay, thank you,
And I'm glad to see that they finally resolved that matter.
thank you.
I did give the board copies of a draft payment in lieu of tax agreement and GPS for town vehicle draft policies. Ask that you take a look at them, and if you agree, we can put them on the agenda for a future meeting. It's not scheduled this evening.
Greg, can you, sorry,
Want to acknowledge that they're in the packet. Yes, sir.
can you ask the police chief, I asked him that question that night, if GPS was working well. Can you ask or verify that the cruisers are actually participating in that program through the dispatch center? 'Cause I just want to get a feedback on, is it working well, keeping track of manpower, cost? I just want to verify that the cruisers are actually, I know the ambulance are GPS, right?
Yeah, I think we're the only ones that are active on it.
Town.
Okay, can we just verify if they are, if they're not, why? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Giving you some information on costs associated with operating the town beach. And you see what the costs were for this past year. And as I promised the board, I'm in the midst of compiling a after-action report summarizing some recommendations for the town beach. I'm sure that will encompass a significant discussion. There's no particular urgency to do it at the 28th meeting unless you feel that it's necessary. We can do it after that, but I'd like to put together a plan in terms of how we approach the beach going forward.
Can you touch base again with the police chief?
I already did.
We asked him about compiling a list of calls.
There were a total of 98 calls from the beach opened, I believe it was the last Thursday in June 26th, I think, through August 28th, and during that period of time, there were 98 calls that were documented. I'm suggesting that there were more calls than that, and the chief suggested there were more calls than that. I'd like to put that all in your package, because I think you should see what's going on with the number of calls, and that certainly will drive decisions going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fox did talk about item number 6. And last item is number 7. Mass DOT is coming in this Thursday to talk about possible safety improvements to West Main Street between Lyons Road and Center Road intersections. And if you've been down that stretch of roadway, You'll notice that the ragweed is about 5 feet tall and hasn't been touched, and it really does create some safety issues with people who are driving that roadway. It's dark. There are people that do walk that section of roadway, drive bikes on that section of roadway, and it's really becoming a concern to me. And in particular, if you look at those two intersections, there, as the chief had previously reported, they're a lightning rod for accidents.
You know, I want to thank Danny, too. I know he sent the brush mower down there more than once to help clean that corner up
Yeah, it's
at Center and West Main. And Greg, another real quick one, too. I know you're working on it, because people have asked. We're going to, speaking of holding the bag with the town, we're going to get some kind of figure from water at some point on how much water was lost.
I will, if they haven't given me that information,
We asked for that.
I will ask for that. I have asked for it formally, and I'm going to their meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, because there was a lot of material that came out of that pipe, and
And who's responsible for paying?
those of us that live on town water
Right.
shouldn't have to pick up somebody's mistake. Speaking of holding the bag with the town.
Well, especially
I'd be
where
curious
it's-
what that figure
Especially where
shows.
it's damaged by equipment. It's not like there was just a break that
And it was done
happened.
twice,
Whose equipment damaged it?
whoever the stuff was.
The general contractor doing the Center Road project?
Dan, you know who the general contractor is on Center Road?
Gonzalez.
Is it Lauren?
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
No, Lauren.
Yeah, let's do that before something expires and we can't get any money.
Right. Let's just find out what their policy is.
Well, when I see Mass DOT on Thursday, I'll remind them that we want to make a claim for any outstanding amount.
You can do that, provided you have an estimate of how much water was lost.
Correct.
So are you done, John, Meehan, and get that amount from him, please?
And did we ever get an update? Are all the shut-offs cleaned out and
Yep.
repaired?
Mr. Chairman, that's what I was going to
We
bring
asked for
up.
that information, we never got it.
Yeah, I'd like to know how much we, because I think there should be some restitution there from the state. I would love to get that other section of Schofield Ave paved. Maybe that contractor come back and help.
Well, I know they repaired a lot of them. I don't think they got to them all. I hope they did.
I think they did, but as I go through,
some
I
squares.
noticed that there are still driveways and aprons.
Yep, all the way down
Right
West
across
Main.
from William Street, there's a mess right there.
Yep, all the way down, all the way down West Main.
Anybody else want to
Restitution.
load up Greg's plate?
As Mass DOT said to me, they never had a complaint about this contract. They consider this to be your first.
As we can say to Mass DOT, they can consider this to be about 7.
We said we've never had a complaint as far as you know.
Yeah. Which is right up there with, I didn't know I had to put drainage in to finish the subdivision,
As far as you know.
as you know.
Mr. Chairman, hearing no objection, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Alex, you all set? Bless you.
Thank you.
Chiefs, you all set? Danny?
Oh, yeah.
Chief?
Second.
Call for acclamation?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Meeting Wednesday?